Welcome to the Bowen Island Municipality meeting of Monday, June 22nd, 2026, and thank you for joining. I'm Andrew Leonard, the Mayor of Bowen Island Municipality and the chair of this meeting. I'd like to introduce, as I always do, the other elected members of our council here today. Beginning on my far right, we have Councillor and Islands Trustee Sue Ellen Fast. To her left is Councillor and Islands Trustee Judy Getty. To my far left is Councillor John Saunders. To his right is Councillor Tim Wake, and to his right is Councillor Alison Morse. Also joining us online today is Councillor Jurgensen. We're also joined by members of our professional staff team here this afternoon, including our Chief Financial Officer and Acting Chief Administrative Officer, Kristen Watson, our Corporate Officer, Sophie Insinga, as well as other members of our staff who will be presenting items here this afternoon. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded to YouTube and the municipality's website. Personal information, including your name, image, and any statements you make, may be collected and used for the purpose of conducting council business and maintaining the public record. This council meeting is an official forum for the conducting of the business of local government. We all love our community. We are all passionate about what happens here. I would encourage everyone to maintain a constructive and respectful tone during the meeting and to direct comments for council during the public comment or question and answer portion of the meeting to myself. For those following along in the room or online or at a later date, the agenda and full council package for this afternoon's meeting, including all of the staff reports, is available at bowenislandmunicipality.ca. And with that, I will look to our corporate officer for the introduction of any late items here this afternoon.
There's just one on-table item this afternoon, and that's a revised recommendation for agenda item 4.9, the recommendation to move to a closed meeting.
Okay, and with that, I will look for a motion to approve the agenda and non-table items. Moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Wake. Any discussion, changes, amendments? Not seeing any. I will call the question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. 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 Any opposed? And Councillor Jurgensen, just for the sake of privilege, wanted to ask if you're able to hear us here today. Councillor Jurgensen, are you able to hear us?
Yes, couldn't find the unmute button there. Okay. I am in favor.
Great, you had my heart skip a beat there for a moment. So with that, I will move us along the agenda to public comments and look to our corporate officer for public comments here today.
There's just one this afternoon, and that is David Becko on Zoom.
Okay. Mr. Becko, are you here with us this afternoon?
I am.
Okay, so welcome. Thank you for joining us. You are our only commenter here today, so you do have the full 3 minutes, and that doesn't start until you're relaxed, ready to go, and I will turn the floor over to you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor Leonard and members of council. My name is Dave Becko, and I am the owner of 1620 Joan Audrey Lane, subject of technical amendment to the zoning that we're going to talk about at some point. My son is one of the people the project's eligibility framework was written to serve. This is a framework I negotiated with the municipality and signed into a registered housing agreement in 2018. I mentioned this just so you understand that I have a personal stake in this. But I want to respect your time, so I'll be brief. What's before you, or when we get to it, is a narrow technical change to the housing agreement. It strikes a single word, rental, from two of the preambles of that agreement. That's the whole of it. It doesn't alter the zoning. It doesn't alter the density. It doesn't alter the eligibility or what can be built on this project. I want to be clear because the change I'm proposing is counterintuitive. Its purpose is not to do away with rental. It's rather to preserve it as a viable path. What it changes is tenure, and it does this by separating who owns a home from who can live in it. A family can own a home, so can a trust, so can a nonprofit. Any of them can rent it on terms to a senior or someone with a disability who qualifies. Rental, I guess what I'm saying is rental stays fully on the table. But here's what the change unlocks. The original design waited on a single institution to come along and finance and build the whole project. None has, and none will. And that's become apparent over the last several years. removing this word opens another path. It lets families finance and build these homes directly. And this is the kind of home that I need personally, that my family needs. And I'm willing to bet with my pocketbook that other families will act if the right opportunity presents itself. And this is something where the needs have always been there. And what's been missing is really a practical way for families to take it upon themselves instead of waiting for an institution that isn't coming. So I know we're preempting it here, but I'd respectfully ask council to support the amendment and direct staff to draft a bylaw and bring it back to first reading. And so if and when the time comes, I welcome any questions.
Okay. Thank you so much. Maybe I'll invite you to stick around until the agenda item, as there may be more detailed questions from council at that point that could use your input.
Great.
Okay. But I will look to council now if there's any comments or questions. Not seeing any. Thank you so much for your public comment here today.
Thank you.
Drawing council's attention back to the agenda, we are on section 3 delegations. We have 3.1, the Bowen Island Resilient Community Housing, Birch, regarding annual report to council. So I'll invite Birch up. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here with us this afternoon.
Thank you. I will share my screen, see what happens. Okay. View full screen. Let's see if that works. That working? Yeah, looks good. Okay. So we're here. This is the first time for us to present an annual report. So we worked very hard. This is Quentin Beck, our administrative manager. I'm Robin Fenton, executive director of Birch, Bowen Island Resilient Community Housing Society. So yes, we're here for the first time presenting our first annual report. So I'll go through it. I'm not going to read it verbatim. I'll just sort of give some highlights. And then I guess if there's questions or clarifications, and then certainly either today or in future, we're very open to feedback. If there's tweaks that can be made, things are missing, too much, too little information, we'd be glad to hear it for our future reports. I'll jump in. We start, of course, with a territorial acknowledgement, a message from our board chair, David McCullum, who's also here today in the audience, a message from myself as executive director, and I was very pleased the 3 people I was thanking for being very instrumental are all in fact here today. Oh, actually, no, Daniel's not here. Oh, there he is. There you go. Thanks. And then quickly at a glance, we got our operational funds last year. We have 25 units in development at Hemlock Hill. That's in partnership with the Lookout Health and Housing Society. We now have 3 part-time staff, and we've clocked in at approximately 546 volunteer hours. That is an approximation from the past year. We're tightening up our tracking this year, so we'll be able to give a more accurate number next year. We reiterate our vision, mission, values. We suited this document assuming it's being seen, by people who may not know us. Not this thing in the way in my screen. Oh, okay. Accomplishments. So the biggest one being, of course, signing the agreement with Bowen Island Municipality this past year. We've gone through strategic planning with the board, using consultants, and worked on creating a business plan. We're working on quite a bit on governance and finance structure. And we've got additional funding, as you know, for the Lot 1 development, which we have an update for a little later. There we go. This just re-outlines our responsibilities from the partnering agreement, again, just for sort of clarity for everybody. These are some of our strategic priorities. Some of the highlights, we broke ground, or I think, on the Miller Road project with Lookout, which is very exciting, and having the business plan developed, and any other sort of highlights here, recruiting the new board members, of course. Let's see if there's anything else in here. We have quite a good work plan that we've been working with our governance. Vantage Point has been working with us as consultants for our governance structure and improving that. So we've made some good strides developing that. Let's see, we are exploring charitable status. That's something that's ongoing to see if there's a benefit for us as an organization. And of course, one of our biggest goals, working towards financial sustainability. So that's a big overarching one in a lot of what we're doing. Let's see if there's any highlights in here. Working on Lot 1. Again, there's further updates in the next in coming pages. outline who our team is, as I say, our organizational development achievements, engaging staff, engaging consultants, attending regional conferences, which I always find we make such great connections when we go to those conferences. And I think, Mayor Leonard, I think I saw you at one of those. Yeah, so it's great. You learn a lot and you make fantastic connections. So 2 staff members were able to attend. And in fact, you, Quentin, went to a smaller regional one recently as well. So we're making great connections and learning a lot. We continue to do community engagement through websites, social media, and working towards that business plan and financial sustainability. Our lovely board. We hope this is a plan that will update over the years and have more and more bubbles, but at the moment we've got our 2 projects, Hemlock Hill Village, is that, but I keep mixing up the words, and then Lot 1, of course. We hoped, again, this is a little bit of a stark table, but again, hopefully to update it as the years come. So having those 25 units in development. We didn't include the Lot 1 in development because it's still really early. I think by next year, we'll definitely have a number in there that'll be more accurate for what is in development. So project update on Lot 1. We have engaged architects from Michael Green and Associates, and they are working on developing a more detailed master plan. I found it a little tricky giving you an update because this is a 2025 annual report and a lot of this has happened this year. So there's a little bit of crossover. So forgive me if there's some stuff that maybe isn't in here because it's happened very recently, but in the spirit of giving you the most up-to-date information. So we've engaged surveyors, an arborist report, we've had an environmental study done. Am I missing anybody? And then, septic, engineering report, and engage the architects. So we've got lots of consultants going and all that information. We've got our development consultants sort of helping us manage the entire thing. It's moving along. Hopefully in about 4 weeks, we'll have an updated plan and then we'll be able to move on to next steps. Yeah, there we go. That's all there. An electrical engineering, which was an interesting one to make sure we do that ahead of time. And the market study was also something interesting that I can't remember if we've got the final version yet, but that was something interesting and that maybe we can look at. We haven't discussed actually yet to share that information, but really interesting on the rental market and I think a little bit on ownership. Yeah, so that's something we can share maybe at another time, but really interesting information. Let's see. So this describes what the architects are going to be working on. So the site layout phasing strategies, which is going to be really important, and the unit mix, and how we're going to phase the project. And a budget overview. So I wanted to include, where we're at in terms of the budget of Lot 1. So the 150, we're roughly partway through in terms of what we spent and committed already. And like I say, in about a month, we'll have a more detailed plan from the architects and we'll be engaging sort of the next steps of consultants the latter half of the year. And then this one, Hemlock Hill Village. This one, hopefully most people know about in partnership with the Lookout Health and Housing Society. It's a 25-unit building and the number has varied a little bit over the years, but in the end we landed on 25. And it's a whole mix from studios all the way 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. I might just reiterate, just for the sake of those listening as well as council members, the mix there, it's from BC Housing, Community Housing Fund, which I think unfortunately has been discontinued. So we were very lucky to get it when we did. And the mix of rent levels are 20% for very low income, and 50% rent geared income, and then 30% what they describe as low end of market. So the 30% is low end of market. That's basically market, but just at that lower end. The other 20 and 50, so 70% are subsidized units. And that's a 60-year agreement with BC Housing. And so that means that the people who qualify and live in those units will have a housing subsidy for those 60 years. So the very low income meeting that specific threshold, and then the 50%, as long as you meet the income requirements, you don't pay more than 30% of your income. So I'm really excited about that in particular. I think the low income is also very needed, but that middle one, considering people on fixed pensions and all sorts of things, or single parents, those kinds of things, will have that option, and it's subsidized for 60 years, which is really exciting. And a reminder again for those watching, that's on the municipal land that's been leased at a nominal rate. And I believe the lease was 65 years, just to make sure it was totally covered once construction's done and all that stuff, and the mortgages, the various mortgages. So we've been thrilled in the partnership with Lookout Health and Housing Society. They've been fantastically supportive and looping us in. We've learned so much just being, in parallel along with them for this experience. So it's an ongoing relationship, and we're really excited to see that come to fruition. I was very sad to miss the groundbreaking. I will be there at the ribbon cutting, that's what I said, to make up for it. The survey is another one that we've done. We did our third housing survey, and I think we're sort of aiming to do it now every 2 years, probably on a more regular basis. And so we got still, I think, a pretty good response rate of 200. We also did an employer survey this time, and we got, I think, again, a pretty good response. We'll have that kind of a pretty document to load sometime in the next month or so. Yeah, we've got the results, and we're just going to kind of make that nice document. We'll have that up on our website. Did you want to say anything, Quentin, about the sort of survey results? Was there anything notable?
No, just it is interesting to see the trends over time, how it shifts and what our community is most interested in. And the employer survey was really telling as well, just to see what we might need, what employers are looking for, and the scale and range that we have on Bowen. Because our island is so specific, getting data and knowledge specific to us is really valuable.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The employment survey, there we go. So we've included just a couple of the key questions and some of the results there. Year-end finances. So we included just sort of a really simple, clear synopsis. We have, of course, our full financials. I can't remember where we landed. Happy to share that, but it's as you know, kind of a robust document. So we shared a simplified version here to see where we were at. And as I say, this one might look a little bit skewed only because, of course, 2025, we were really only part of the year in operations once we got our funding and kind of ramping up. And a lot of the lot one, I think actually we basically didn't spend any of the lot one money technically in 2025. It's all been this year. So that number would be different if we took a snapshot today. Our priorities for this coming year is, of course, advancing lot one. We're exploring charitable status, just generally advancing housing developments, including looking into potential acquisitions or other opportunities, deepening our partnerships, of course, with the municipality, and continuing to respond to community identified housing needs, and which, of course, the market needs study and the survey are leading that. There we go. Thank you. So open to questions if there are any, or feedback.
Thank you. And I see Councillor Morris with a question to kick us off.
When is construction going to start?
Oh, I think I haven't looked at the most recent email that's in my inbox, but I think it's momentary.
So there was a CCAN on the parking lot for the gym. Is that to do
I
with
would
your
think so.
construction?
Yes, I believe it
Okay.
is. Yeah, so it's literally like, I think they're just in that, final, the permits in, the contract signed, that like all the little bits and pieces that are just
Yeah.
like startup is happening. So I wouldn't be surprised if, certainly within the next month, I think you'll see fencing up and the crew there and things are happening.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Jurgensen, I see your hand up, followed by Councillor Wake.
Hey, thank you, Chair. Through the chair to our Birch delegation. Just one question regarding Hemlock Hill. I know there's been a lot of different discussion over the years as far as accessibility within those units. And I know at a time it was looked at to be universally designed so that the units could be adapted for different needs over time. And just wondering if you're able to share a little bit more on the final design, or if that's something that we have to direct to Lookout as a question to get them to speak on.
That is a great question, and I apologize, I do not have that answer. I know there were some different requirements for a certain percentage to be fully accessible, and then potentially all of the units to be universally designed. David, do you have recollection? No, so I apologize, I don't know the answer to those details, but as I just found out, Lookout is very responsive, and they have, we have it up on our website if people do have questions like that, or about being on a waiting list and inquiring as rentals, or any question about that. They've set up a special email address, and we just learned they're very responsive. So email them any questions like that, you or anybody else who's listening.
Perfect. I'll connect with you out of band then to get that email address. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jurgensen. Over to you, Councillor Wake.
Thank you. Through the mayor, congratulations on an excellent report. I've done a few of those reports over the years, and that one is really a standout in terms of the attention to detail. It's straightforward to understand, and lots of good information. But I really like the photographs So thank you.
Well, definitely kudos to Quentin. She has brought much needed administrative and detail and organization and everything to Birch, and she's been a fantastic addition to the team. So she definitely can take the credit for that one. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Looking for other questions or comments? Councillor Morse.
I'm sorry if I missed this, but two of you were here for the staff. Who's the third one?
Nigel, and he's our housing development manager. So we do try to be mindful and keep, who needs to be where at what time. And and actually it just happened to be that Quentin was coming along today, so I invited her up because I think it's good for everybody to know there's multiple faces, including the board behind Birch. It certainly isn't just me. So yeah.
Okay. And just, I know this was an annual report and you spoke to it, that it was stuff that happened in the previous year. I'm excited about Lot 1 and curious. I thought that the updates on it were great detail, where we're at, all the planning and the research that's being done for it. I'm curious when the next steps are coming back to council and that you folks are working on that really advances this. I think what we're hearing from the community is that we need more housing. Lot 1 community lands, now that we've actually got a plan there, is great. But plans are even better when they turn into groundbreaking projects like we saw with the Miller Road project. So I'm just curious if you have some more detail on what Birch sees as the next operational steps to get that project off the ground.
So I think once we have in about a month, the architects complete their initial work. And then I think once we have that and it's clear, we've landed on something, you never know, you might need further iterations, but once we've landed on something clear, I think we'll know not only, because we do still have some funds remaining for those next steps. So we'll make sure what can we use those funds to accomplish hopefully this year. And I imagine sometime in the fall, if not towards the end of the year, but as soon as we can, we'll come back with an update that will include, part of the work we want to do is what is the timeline? How do we get this developed? And one of the big challenges is financing, of course, as we all know. The landscape has changed quite a bit. There are still options out there, so we're actively pursuing those and trying to figure out what those different things like that might look like. We'd love for it to all be rental. We're certainly exploring options if something like an affordable ownership model might help with some finances. So we're kind of exploring all those things and looking into the Build Canada Homes, which is the federal program, which is still a little fuzzy on details, but we actually have a great relationship with our MP. So I think he's even wanted to actively follow up with us. So we'll see what we can find out. And there is still some BC housing funds through like BC Builds and stuff, but it's a little bit more challenging. So we're trying to just explore what are the options we can do. Still with our goal, I remember when we started with the TOMO report back with the Housing Advisory Committee, which I think is about, let's call it 2 years ago, we were like, could we get something built in 5 years? So we're still optimistically kind of aiming at a really ambitious goal of could we actually get something built? And exploring those options. And one of the biggest things too will be the phasing of the project. So obviously we're not going to develop the entire lot. So working with the planning department, subdivision planning, as it turns out, I'm sure everybody also knows the challenges around septic and wastewater and all those things when you get into multiple units. So navigating all of that. And I think we have a great team in the architects and the other consultants. So I'm hoping, by the end of this year, we have something like that really in the plans, and with any luck, some financial strategy that we can hopefully come back, update you, all those kinds of good things. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Getty.
So as a follow-up to the mayor's question, in terms of all of the details and specifics about Lot 1, where would someone be able to read that in more detail? I'm looking on your website.
I think we included a lot of it in this report because we kind of knew you'd want a more detailed update on that one. And then we will, as of presenting it today, we were going to do a little update to everybody and put the report available on our website. But that's good for you. Is that something you would like to see? Would you like to see some more detailed updates? We're still sort of working out our resources and managing our capacity and where we put our energy and time into updates. So if that's something you think council or the community would like to see, maybe some more regular updates, we do our best, but open to feedback.
Well, I thought Mayor Leonard was saying that he'd been able to read something somewhere. So it's if and when it's I think it's wildly interesting.
Yeah, well, actually it'd be great because actually one of the questions from the architects recently for this part was we included to want to have some graphics, like something. I don't know, we don't exactly what it's going to look like. And so that was something also that we want to have a visual of some kind, whether it's sort of a illustrated site plan or some sort of sketchy 3D or something like that. So we do know we want to have visuals because I know it gets everybody excited, right? To actually see something that's like, you know, kind of a little more concrete, even if it's still in the planning stages. So yeah, we will definitely have those updates, keep everybody informed.
Thank you.
See, Councillor Jurgensen has his hand up and he also appears to be standing outside the door to chambers for now. So if we can just pause for a minute and have him seated and comfortable, then we'll let him ask his question.
Okay.
Here's your chair.
Welcome, Councillor Jurgensen. Great to have you here in person, and I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. I did not want to come in with any of the speakers. I was just waiting for an opening to come in, so thank you. Question about, and again, it's going back to Hemlock Hill. With regards to Hemlock Hill being a partnership with the with Lookout, sorry. Is it then, if my understanding is correct, it's Lookout who makes a final determination on eligibility, or is that still within Birch's domain?
Oh, that's a great question. So, and I'm sure it's one lots of people have. So our understanding at this point, Lookout's the operator, they're going to take the lead on the selection process. We haven't quite determined Birch's role. We may be like a partner in that, just because we are the community partner, we know the community. But I believe ultimately it will be Lookout who, actually no, not I believe, I know. Ultimately Lookout will be the decision maker on those. And I know part of how they've described part of their process, and actually this is a great opportunity to say it will not be first come, first serve. So I wanted to make sure the community knows that, and we try to put that in our messaging. There will be like an application period. And one of the things they've said is they do like to do, like they'll get the applications, they'll see who qualifies. And they also do an interview process because they've known from their vast experience that, you know, there's a sort of community and a fit that happens in buildings like these. And so they do have a bit of an interview process to make sure they're sort of getting a good fit for people who are going to live there. So I'm not sure exactly what that looks like, but we do know it's not first come, first serve. There will be criteria you'll have to meet in terms of income for the different levels. And we've been assured that it's essentially aimed at existing Bowen Island residents, people who have formerly lived on Bowen and want to return. We all know somebody who's had to leave because they couldn't find housing. So those people are definitely welcome to apply. And I believe they might include, we'll have to double check, like people who work full-time and would want to move to Bowen because they're established here with work, but don't quote me on that one. We'll double check. Does that answer the question?
That does, thank you.
Yeah.
I also had the opportunity to speak to the CEO of Lookout at the groundbreaking about that process, because there are a number of different models for selection into housing units in the province. And I was curious whether it was going to be a full-blown coordinated access table with organizational stakeholders, and there's a bureaucracy and a bit of a jockeying that can occur around those tables. And Lookout said, you know, that's not what they want to do for their model here. They are still in the process of designing what the selection process looks like, but they are very interested in having community stakeholders participate in that, and in that interview process. Because it was made very clear to me that they feel like they want to integrate into the community. They understand that it's a Bowen first rental facility, and that they'll need community partners in order to really see the highest and best purpose of that. So that was a very encouraging conversation with the CEO when he was here on Island, and I'm looking forward to how that unfolds between Lookout, the municipality, and any interested community stakeholders as well. Not seeing any further questions. So thank you for your first annual report before council. And, you know, some highlights for me in that report, I think, were really Birch coming into its maturity. So having some dedicated funding, having a closer relationship with the community as a community-owned housing organization, and council representation. And it's been thrilling for us to be able to both contribute land, contribute resources, and really see how a volunteer-based organization has taken up the call, applied those resources, and put some solid footing underneath it. So really looking forward to what comes next, and really thank you, and am grateful for the efforts and service to the community. I see a gentleman with a red shirt with his hand up in the back there.
I just wanted to thank the people at the table. Without your support and confidence, none of this would be happening. And we are exceedingly grateful, and our community is great. Thank you.
Thank you. And if that was off camera for everyone, that's Mr. David McCullum, the chair of the board of Birch as well. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for being here today. Oh, yes, Councillor Jurgensen.
Just point of access, could I ask the corporate officer through the chair to just drop my existing Zoom connection off the
Absolutely.
room? Thank you. Just a glass of water.
Returning to our agenda, we are on section 4, consent agenda. I will look to council for items that they would like to remove from the consent agenda. Councillor Morse.
4.5.
Okay. 4.5, Councillor Getty.
4.7, and with respect to correspondence, the 12.2, 12.3, 12.4, and 12.9. 2, 3, 4, and 9.
2, 3, 4, 9, 4.7, then 12.2, 3, 4, and 9. Other councillors wishing to remove items from the consent agenda? Not seeing any. I'll look for a motion to adopt the consent agenda, please. Moved by Councillor Getty, seconded by Councillor Jurgensen. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That carries unanimously. We'll deal with items pulled from the consent agenda in numerical order, starting with 4.5. We have award of electric fleet vehicle. Over to you, Councillor Morse.
A couple of questions. How many bids, question for the Public Works Manager. How many actual proposals did we get?
We got 3 proposals. Are we talking about this EV charger?
The fleet, the electric vehicle?
Yes, 3 proposals.
Okay, and the lowest one has been selected?
And it's not the lowest one that we selected.
So why would we have chosen not the lowest one?
Through the chair, we had the criteria, different criterias for selection of the vehicle. And we went through all those criterias with scoring numbers. And based on our scoring numbers, the Toyota Squamish ranked the best.
Okay. I don't know why we wouldn't with a car just go with the lowest price. I pulled it largely because I'm not in favor of acquiring this vehicle in the first place, so I'm not supporting purchasing it.
Okay. Over to you, Councillor Jurgensen.
Through the chair to the director of engineering, what is it possible to ask what the cost difference was between the lowest bid or lowest proposal and this proposal?
Through the chair, yes, of course, I can provide you with that detail. Just wanted to clarify that this purchase was approved through the budget 2026 to 2030. That's why staff prepared RFQ and we put it in the market with criteria that it was publicly published, and we decided basically we didn't do tender. When you go tender, it means you go with the lowest price. When you have criteria, when you prepare request for proposal, it means that you are not only looking at the lowest price, you are looking at other criteria like the, for example, the battery, the all-wheel drives, the possibility of having better customer service through a dealership, and also the incentives that Toyota at Squamish offered to us. Basically, they gave us $5,000 discount because they just wanted to work with municipality. But I can provide you with the exact numbers if you can let me, everything is in our folder. I'll give you the number.
I'll just let the director answer the question. Then we'll go to you, Councillor Fast. Mhm.
I'll also just take the opportunity to add that the award itself is under the $50,000 threshold required by council. But the fact that staff are seeking to engage into the prepaid maintenance plan is what would put it over the $50,000 threshold required by council. So part of what we're seeking today is authorization to approve that prepaid maintenance contract. And for many reasons, the Director of Engineering has made the case that with electric vehicles, because of the strict requirements around battery maintenance and life, that engaging in a prepaid maintenance contract is a good idea.
Yes. Thank you so much. Through the chair to the councillor, the 3 bids that we received, the lowest is $42,000 with no discount. The second best bid was $47,000, and the Squamish Toyota was $49,000.
Back to you, Councillor Morse, or sorry, not Councillor Morse, Councillor Jurgensen, followed by Councillor Fast.
Through the chair to the Director of Engineering, thank you very much. And I definitely do appreciate the differences between the tender process and other forms of figuring out using criteria rubrics. Somebody who myself has been often the subject of technology I receive being through a tender process, I can say that it's definitely often worth the difference that you end up paying to get a better quality, because cheaper does not always mean better. And I have complete confidence in you and your department's selection of this particular vehicle. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm more wanting to ask just so that one could see in the public that the difference, how big that difference is really. So thank you very much.
Through the chair, yes, thank you so much for that question. And yeah, as you can see, there isn't a huge difference, but if we consider that $5,000 that they gave us discount, it's a huge difference.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jurgensen. Over to you, Councillor Fast.
Thank you. Much the same. So I'll just be brief, just that I was glad to see it was all-wheel drive. Great that it's electric. Of course, I know we approved that earlier, but the idea of service and the battery and the long term is good, because BC Ferries won't let you take an electric vehicle on it if it's broken. And so I think that's a wise idea, and I'm in favor, and I'd be happy to make the recommendation.
Councillor Saunders.
Get through the chair just really briefly. I'm looking at the RFQ and the evaluation criteria you put there are exactly what I would expect to see there, and the priorities you put on you could call it the relative weight for each one are exactly what I would have hoped to have seen. So I think I'm really comfortable with this myself. Thank you.
Thank you. And back to Councillor Fast for the recommendation, please.
Sure, I'm going to move it as written, that council award the contract for the supply of one 2026 Toyota CHR XSE AWD battery electric vehicle to Squamish Toyota for a total all-inclusive cost of $49,995, including GST and PST, to be funded from the Equipment Reserve Fund, and that council authorize staff to negotiate and execute a prepaid maintenance agreement and a Toyota Extra Care Protection extended service agreement with Squamish Toyota at the time of the vehicle purchase, to be funded from the financial plan operating budget.
Okay, moved by Councillor Fast, seconded by Councillor Wake.
I ask the motion be severed, please?
Yep. So we'll deal with each clause separately. So I will call the question on the first clause, the awarding of the contract. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Oops, nay.
That Carries with Councillor Morris in opposition. The second clause, that council authorize staff to negotiate and execute a prepaid maintenance agreement. Call this question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Turning our attention back to items pulled from the consent agenda, we have 4.7, which is staff comment on referral of motion, Squamish Land Use Planning Agreement response. Over to you, Councillor Getty.
I'm not in disagreement with the report that staff have given, and I'm not, and I haven't been able to double check what the timelines are for feedback to the province, but it's interesting that what has not been identified either on the map from the Squamish Nation or any of the discussion with respect to the land use plan is the whether or not there's any culturally significant trees or culturally modified trees on Bowen. And my understanding is that there are around Bix and I believe on the far side on the former Adams sisters property. There's the one archaeological site that was identified by Metro when they were purchasing Cape Roger Curtis. And I don't believe that's in any forestry area, but it might be in a development. At any rate, there are items of cultural significance that possibly haven't been identified by Squamish Nation. And I'm wondering if we need to organize that information, and we have an obligation, I think, to provide it and have some sort of a conversation with Squamish Nation people so that they become aware that there are these certainly culturally modified trees is relevant to this discussion.
Okay. Councillor Morris.
My understanding of this map is they're only dealing with forest, crown land for forestry. And if you go and look at the full land use plan and read the schedules, I think it's Schedule A2, very clearly identifies a couple of areas on Bowen Island that are, one of them's right here in the middle of the cove somewhere, and the other one is out at Union Bay. So I'm thinking that this to me is just a forestry map. So they're not looking to do any forestry on our crown land, which I'm thinking is good. Yeah.
That may be, if I may, that may be, and that might be a reasonable restriction with respect to this particular referral and comments to the minister, the provincial department. But I think it suggests that there's a gap in knowledge. And I think that if people on Bowen have identified that there are some culturally modified trees, that we need to double check and make sure that Squamish is aware of that information.
Councillor Fast.
Thank you, Chair. I think that there, in regards to the need for more information, this particular part of this plan, what's in front of us today, is just about what's called the Forest Stewardship Plan, which are the BC basically timber farming plans for industrial logging. Where can it happen? And the or commercial logging, and the other layers that you might be thinking of, Trustee Getty, there's another whole layer, and there may be more, that's covered by the Heritage Conservation Act and the archaeological records. And those are not available to the public, in part because it identifies sites that could be visited by those folks with their wands looking for objects in the ground, or people may wish to remove cultural objects so that they're free to develop, or that show up on eBay. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons for keeping locations private between Squamish Nation and the province. And I'm going to turn to the Director of Planning here and just say I believe the Director of Planning has some access to those records, and that checking happens. but I don't think that's in the public. Can you confirm that? Or not?
Thank you through the chair. Yes, we have access to a provincial database. It's called RAD, Remote Access for, I don't know, Archaeology Database maybe. And yes, we signed a data sharing agreement, and that says that we're not able to publicly release the information of mapped archaeological sites on Bowen, but it is something that we check with every permit before we issue it. And there's different layers. It's like you directly overlap or you are adjacent to, essentially you're in a buffer area, and then we notify the applicant of that result, and people can check themselves as well. The province has a site where you can enter your address and they say if there's a site on your property. So yes, and so I believe in terms of this report, this is specific to the forestry land. So the sites that Councillor Getty has mentioned are in that database that we have access to and can view. And that's information that came from the province, probably, you know, in many cases via the Squamish Nation.
Thank you.
Councillor Getty.
I thought I started off by saying I wasn't opposed to this, but I thought there was other information that needed to be brought to the attention of the planner, and I'll follow up. So I would be prepared to move that council direct staff to take no further action on resolution 26-231.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I will call the question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that carries unanimously. Moving down our consent agenda to item 12.2, which is municipal trustee Sue Ellen Fast regarding federal ferry funding petition dated June 2nd, 2026. Over to you, Councillor Getty.
There's I think an MLA from somewhere in North Island, I believe. Is it Mr. Johns, who has or it might be a federal NDP, has started a petition with the federal parliament with respect to calling on the federal government to provide funding for the West Coast equal to or similar to the funding that's available for ferries on the East Coast. So we're getting, if I remember correctly, the numbers are something like we get $6 per person, and the East Coast provinces are getting something close to $238 per person per head. So the petition, it has a deadline, I believe, of early September, and I'm highlighting this so that it gets more public recognition in terms of people finding, and that is included, the link is included in Councillor Fast's memo that is 12.2 for people to sign that petition. So just advertising.
Great. Yes, Councillor Fast.
I just move that we receive this for information.
Okay, moved by Councillor Fast, seconded by Councillor Getty. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that carries unanimously. 12.3, Chair Mike Hurley, Metro Vancouver Board of Directors, regarding draft solid waste management plan dated June 3rd, 2026. Back over to you, Councillor Getty.
Thank you. And I just wanted to double check that our staff have been, at the last video, the whole meeting, we had a report from our staff with respect to our activities and planning around solid waste. And I just wanted to double check and make sure that this letter was referred to our strategic planning staff person, so that all of this information is taken on board, and the very thorough work that she's been doing. So just an update, and it's a referral to staff.
Okay.
I can confirm that
Yeah.
she and I are working together on it, so we're aware of this program, this plan that's been published.
Thanks. So then I would move that this so the letter from the chair, Mike Hurley, be accepted for information.
Moved by Councillor Getty, seconded by Councillor Fast. I will call the question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that carries unanimously. And moving on to 12.4, which is Future of Childcare in BC, Provincial Government Survey. Over to you, Councillor Getty.
Again, this is just advertising, and making it public and emphasizing that the province has put out this survey with respect to childcare in the province. And I would encourage and recommend, we've got a lot of young families, families with young children on this island, and I think that this is something that we should be participating in fully. So that was just to highlight, let people know that we're getting this correspondence and this survey is available. So move acceptance of this document 12.4 for information.
Okay, moved and seconded by Councillor Fast. All in favor, raise your hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that carries unanimously. And 12.9, Paul Welsh and Acting CAO Watson regarding public events, emails dated June 13th, 2026.
In addition to the correspondence that's here, there was also a correspondence that I think council received from Doug Woods, the Director of Bylaw, and indicating all of the steps that the staff had taken to notify the residents of the area. And I understand in further conversations that staff have decided that rather than necessarily leaving it up to an organizer, that they would simply make an effort and make sure that the neighborhood associations or the people in the area would received an email, so that we wouldn't have this, whether it's fallen through the cracks or it wasn't done or whatever happened, that the residents will be aware of the application and the permits. So receive this correspondence for information, and I mentioned that there has been more detailed information from the bylaw services, and that there's been a resolution to improve the situation by staff.
Okay. So a motion to receive, seconded by Councillor Wake. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that carries unanimously. Turning back to our regular agenda with items removed from the consent agenda having been disposed of, we are on section 7 bylaws. We have 7.1, 1620 Joan Audrey Lane, application for rezoning. We have our island community planner, Drew Backen, joining us here today.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this report is to bring the discussion, comments, and recommendations from the 3 committee referrals back to council. So this rezoning application was first introduced to council at their March 23rd regular meeting, where council motioned to refer the application to the Advisory Planning Commission, the Accessibility Advisory Committee, and the Parks, Environment, and Climate Action Advisory Committees for recommendation. The first of those committees to discuss the application was Advisory Planning Commission. They first met to discuss the property on April 1st and then deferred until May 6th. They did end up supporting the application with the following recommendations: that the rezoning allow for flexibility to support diversity in building types, design, and ownership or rental. 2, that in considering this application, council review the context in which the original development was approved, and in particular, the desire to provide a benefit to disabled persons who would qualify under the housing agreement. And 3, that should the rezoning proceed, consideration be given to reviewing the eligibility criteria, allowing individuals 55 years or older to be able to reside in the community. The second committee to discuss the application was Parks, Environment, and Climate Action Advisory Committee on April 10th. They also supported the application with the following recommendation: that the land compensated for the removal of a section of park be connected to existing parkland to reduce fragmentation. The third and final committee to discuss was the Accessibility Advisory Committee on June 12th. They supported the application with the recommendation that that council directs staff to work with the applicant to amend the definition of a disabled person in the housing agreement to ensure the language is in accordance with the current accessibility legislation. So one issue discussed by both council and Parks, Environment, and Climate Action Advisory Committees members was the park swap. So that's a 271 square meter area to be taken from the park area, as there was found to be an existing disturbance in the form of a road on the property, the property that was dedicated for parkland. So the applicants intend to replace that 271 square meters by adding it to another side of the parcel, and would do this at the subdivision stage when lot lines are being finalized. A concern that was raised during APC discussions was regarding the eligibility criteria of the housing agreement. So this agreement states that only a qualified occupant may occupy one of the housing units, and which it defines as being a senior or disabled person, as well as caregivers, caretakers, staff, and associated people. So a disabled person is defined as a person with Down syndrome or a similar disability as confirmed by a medical doctor licensed and practicing in BC, whether such disabled person resides in the development on a full-time or temporary respite basis. While a senior is defined as a person who is at least 55 years of age or a person deemed to be physically disabled by a doctor and therefore requires the same type of assisted living facility as if 55 years of age or older, and again, whether full-time residents or on a temporary respite basis. So some in the APC felt that that criteria was too broad and that it may end up functioning more like a retirement community than housing for special needs. So staff note that housing agreements will already be amended as a result of this rezoning, so staff can review the eligibility criteria at this time. And finally, as mentioned, the Accessibility Advisory Committee discussed the content of the housing agreement as well. Their focus was just on amending the wording of the disabled person definition, which they felt was outdated. So for the rezoning itself, the applicant has listed the proposed changes to Area 2 of the CD18 zone. All of them have the intent of splitting the large lot into individual lots around each cottage unit, and also adds the option of a garage for each property, which was noted as an important option for those with accessibility issues. And so overall, the proposed amendment to the zoning is low impact and will support the financial feasibility of the process, of the project. And at this time, staff can also review the eligibility criteria of the housing agreement. So if council motions to do so, then staff will prepare public notices and bylaws ahead of the first reading.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Backin. I will look to council for questions or comments before the recommendation. Not seeing any. Can I get the recommendation?
I'll
on the floor,
move
then,
that
please?
council direct staff to draft an amendment bylaw to amend the zoning designation for 1620 Joan Audrey Lane and to return to council for first reading.
Okay, moved by Councillor Morse, seconded by Councillor Fast. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All in favor, raise your hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that carries unanimously. Moving on to 7.2, 1639 and 1658 Mount Gardner Road rezoning application. I will turn it back over to our island community planner.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this report, again, is to bring discussion comments and recommendations from the committee referrals back to council. So this rezoning application was introduced to council on the March 9th regular meeting, and council motion to refer the application to APC and the PCAC Parks Environment and Climate Action Advisory Committee for recommendation. So the first of those was the Advisory Planning Commission. They carried out a site visit to the property on April 21st, then met on May 6th to discuss. Their recommendation was that they supported the application with two additional points. One, that in selecting lands for the conservation component, reference be made to the Bowen Island Biodiversity Plan to guide covenanting decisions. And two, prior to approving the application as drafted, the proponent be advised of Vancouver Coastal Health's 1 hectare requirement in relation to the property as well. The other committee to discuss was the Parks Environment and Climate Action Advisory Committee. They met on May 12th after also participating in the site visit. Their recommendation to council was that in order to meet the 50% conservation policy and community access to wetlands, riparian, in order to meet the 50% conservation policy and community access to nature, that the following be implemented as part of the rezoning: to protect bluffs, wetlands, riparian zones, and mature forest, to create a public beach access to the sea, and to create a trail connection across the property to Crown Land. Following concerns raised by APC members regarding the suitability of the 1658 Mount Gardner property for a well, the applicant has provided further information around the water services on the property. So there is currently one well located at the top of the hill on 1639 Mount Gardner Road, which services both the detached secondary suite on 1639 as well as the principal residence on 1658 Mount Gardner. The well was installed by past owners of the property, and according to Vancouver Coastal Health standards, a well that services more than one dwelling is considered a water system. And so this info has been shared with Ross Adamson of Vancouver Coastal Health. So he stated that this water system was actually illegal as it was not approved by VCH. So the applicant will have to go through the process of getting that approved before future subdivision may proceed. And the minimum permitted lot size of a property with this approved water system is 0.2 hectares. So that's okay for 1658 Mount Gardner, which has a size of 0.29 hectares once it's severed. So members of the Parks, Environment and Climate Action Advisory Committee mainly discussed the environmental report prepared for the property and the sensitive features it identified with the intent of determining the best areas of the property to be protected. So the main features identified were those rocky bluffs, streams and watercourses, as well as ponds on the property, And so even though those ponds are man-made, they've become a thriving habitat for many species. So PCAC members also discussed the prospects of a public trail across the property to connect to Crown Land to the south. So the existing easement across the property appears to be, based on topography, the most sensible route for public access. And the committee members discussed the lack of desire for installing a trail at this time, considering the lack of direct connections to trails on Crown Land, as well as liabilities and maintenance costs associated with the trail. But they discussed that acquiring a right-of-way at this time to allow a future trail would be ideal. And finally, Parks Environment and Climate Action Advisory members also discussed the possibility of a public trail across 1658 Mount Gardner Road, providing beach access, considering the rockiness and inaccessibility at the nearest public waterfront area, which is Mount Gardner Dock. So this was not part of the amenity contributions originally proposed by the applicant, and in discussing with her was not desirable, as she explained that the majority of the waterfront area is too steep for public access, with the exception of a beach access path that the property owners cleared years ago, but that access runs right adjacent to the main dwelling and passes in front of some bedroom windows. So they didn't feel that was an ideal location for a public path, and because of how it would affect the owner's privacy. To explain the proposed rezoning itself, so only 1658 Mount Gardner needs to be rezoned. That's the smaller northern property, as the larger parcel will already meet the minimum lot size of the R1 zone on its own. The SR2 zoning applicable to 1658 Mount Gardner Road requires a 1 hectare minimum lot size, so that's inadequate as it's 0.29 hectares. So that's the reason for this rezoning application. And the proposal is therefore just to create a new subzone, new variation of the SR2 zone variation that has a smaller minimum lot size that fits the property. And just one last note, I had noted in the report that another issue was lot coverage, but I've received some further info from the applicant that looks like that's no longer an issue. So being that the dwelling was built before the municipality existed, we don't have plans on file, but the applicant was able to find an old plan of the property and submit it. And I just been going by air photos before, and it's hard to tell patios from decks. One of those does not, patios don't contribute to lot coverage, decks do. So anyways, based on this plan that the applicant has provided, it actually looks like they're compliant with lot coverage. And I won't say for sure because it's an old site plan and things could have been added, but basically when we do the site visit, I'll just have a look, and if everything is in line with the site plan, then there's no issue there. So in conclusion, staff will work with the applicant to identify the specific areas intended for environmental protection and identify it through a visual map. And we'll prepare public notices and a bylaw for first reading if council has motions to do so. Thank you.
Thank you to the planner. Over to you, Councillor Fast.
Thank you for the report through the mayor. I'm wondering if the possibility of a swimming beach access on a different trail might be useful, because I've been involved in opening many beach accesses that were public around Bowen, and here's a chance for an area that doesn't have anywhere to get down unless you're a waterfront property to a beach that's more useful for swimming than the slippery big rocks at Mount Gardner Dock with the boats. And I'm also aware we've got lots of beach accesses that are much steeper than the path that she's referring to that goes past their house, including stairs. So there's no stairs there now. Could a steeper part of the beach access that didn't have the privacy concerns still be discussed with the proponent?
It could certainly be considered. I can't speak to engineering or anything like that, but yeah.
Okay. Just to follow up, I think that might add value to the property up the hill too, that she's interested in selling if there was a swimming beach nearby. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fast. Over to you, Councillor Getty.
All right, I have a couple of questions about this. I guess it's the smaller lot, 1658. So it's considered to be, I think you've described it as legally non-conforming regarding lot coverage. And that was before there was a municipality, and it says before there was a land use bylaw, but I'm a little bit surprised that there wasn't a land use bylaw in 60, but anyway. So if this building is demolished for whatever reason, then is there some way of making sure that whatever happens next would be conforming both with water and septic. I haven't seen the lot, but I assume that it's minimal coverage in terms of septic. So are we setting up a separate lot that is going to be have hardship with respect to finding facilities on that land?
Through the chair, so they already have a septic field there, and that doesn't factor into our lot coverage since it's underground. In terms of meeting the minimum parcel size, like we've confirmed with the, the additional follow-up with Ross Adamson that because it's a water system, because they're sharing with not the neighboring property, but it's
The uphill walk.
part of the same property, but will be a separate property, but because they're sharing the water system with that, it's a 0.2 hectare minimum size. They do meet that minimum size. And then, yeah, where I referred to legal non-conforming lot coverage, I just wanted to correct that in this presentation because we got that further follow-up with the plan from the applicant that we didn't have on file that does appears to show that lot coverage is compliant. Again, I'll have to make sure, like I'll have to visit the property, make sure nothing's been added, but it's looking to me like that's not an issue and it'll be compliant with a normal SR2 zoning.
I have two more questions, if I may. So then the business about the Vancouver Coastal Health water system and that they're saying that it is not that they're not agreeing to whether they call it illegal or non-conforming or whatever language that they use. So does that have to be sorted out if we separate the lots and the south one, the bigger one is sold, and that's where the well is, then do we have to make sure that there's some sort of an agreement in place so that the water continues to be servicing the smaller lot? Or does health look after that?
But in terms of the sequencing, according to Ross Adamson, we can't subdivide until that's dealt with first. They first have to make the agreement between them for the water, then we subdivide. So it won't be an issue that the land they need to get the well from is sold to somebody else or something that will have to be set up before they can separate those properties. Sorry, I think I answered. If I didn't answer anything, remind me. Sorry.
And lastly, are there any other properties along that the map looks like there's the smaller properties that have the houses on the north side and then the larger properties that are undeveloped on the south side. So are there other lots along there that have the same situation? Are we setting up some sort of a precedent?
I'm not aware of any other properties sharing land on either side of to be honest, I can't say I've checked in every one of them, but
okay. I understood that there is at least one other.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Over to you, Councillor Jurgensen.
Through the chair, just trying to understand a few things here. Possibly need to lean on history here for a little bit of it, but we have lots. We've had a few come before council where the lot is on both sides of a road. How does that typically occur? Like in this case, we got water being serviced from one side of the road to the other side of the road, if I understand correctly. They're separate sides of the road. That water line must run under the road, I would assume. Are these roads being put in after the fact and just happening to go through properties? Or what creates these scenarios typically?
Through the chair, Councillor Jurgensen, it's a really good question. It's probably a really interesting answer. To be honest, I really have no idea what caused that in the past, and I think those records. But yeah, those records would predate our municipality. So yeah, I haven't been able to find much there.
Okay, well, thank you. Oh, and also who owns the water line under the road in that case? Does the individual owner own that, or is that owned by them and serviced by the municipality since it goes under a public road?
It's owned by the line itself. It's owned by the owner, Lisa Gumeniuk, since the properties haven't been separated yet, and she owns all that land and the water system. I guess I can't speak on the specifics of the arrangement with it crossing the municipal road. I'd have to
okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jurgensen. I'm not seeing any further questions. I'd like to get a recommendation on the floor, please.
I'll move that council direct staff to draft an amendment bylaw to amend the zoning designation of 1658 Mount Gardner Road and to return to council for first reading.
Okay, moved by Counselor Morse, seconded by Counselor Saunders. Not seeing any further hands, I will call the question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Backen. Moving on to item 7.3, Municipal Regional District Tax, MRDT Implementation Bylaw number 701, 2026. We have Mr. Daniel Martin, our Manager of Planning and Development, joining us here today.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. All right, I'm here today to talk about the Municipal Regional District Tax. All right, before I start, I wanted to say to everybody watching this live that today is the last day for our OCP survey. So please, as I'm presenting, feel free to fill out the survey. If you fill out the survey while I'm still presenting and send me an email, you will win a special prize to be determined. All right, so the MRDT is the Municipal Regional District Tax. So it's a council priority in our strategic plan. And this is just highlighting where this tax is currently in effect in the Lower Mainland and Southern Vancouver Island, showing Bowen as a sort of outlier. And this is a tax on overnight accommodation that can be up to 3% and go towards tourism initiatives and affordable housing. So as a reminder for council, we had presented the draft budget, which splits out the revenue into the affordable housing stream and the tourism stream, and showing that that general MRDT revenue that comes from the traditional overnight accommodation providers is flowing into the tourism stream. And so in this report, we brought back those approvals that were requested last time from the Islands Trust, from Metro Vancouver, and from Destination BC. So the outstanding piece is to seek the approval of the accommodation providers with over 4 units. And that is our next task. And so we have brought this recommendation that this MRDT bylaw be read a second and third time, and then we would return to council for approval when we have those approvals of the overnight accommodation providers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Perhaps we can get the recommendation on the floor for this one and then have it debated as we've seen it before. Councillor Fast.
I move that the Bowen Island Municipality Short-Term Accommodation Tax Bylaw number 701, 2026 be read a second and third time.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Jurgensen. Any further debate on this item? Not seeing any, I will call the question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 Aye, and that carries unanimously. Thank you for all your work on this, Mr. Martin. Moving on to 7.4, Ferry Impact Fee and Reserve Fund Bylaw number 720, 2026. We have our Acting Chief Administrative Officer, Kristen Watson, joining us here today.
Thank you. Through the mayor to rest of council, the draft bylaw that is before council today for consideration is for the second and third readings. So this bylaw, it's been drafted in order to mitigate the very real impacts that BC Ferries operations has in Snug Cove. So for example, we have the costs to hire the ferry marshalers to manage traffic and pedestrian volumes. We have future costs that will be coming down the pipeline that can reasonably be expected in order to construct additional ferry marshaling lanes. The amended draft bylaw in front of you, there have been a few editing and stylistic changes that have been made from draft 1 to this one, but most significantly is the inclusion in section 5 of the bylaw, which is adding a provision to charge interest on late payments of fees. So all of the edits for your consideration have been highlighted in yellow for ease of identification, and they are outlined in detail in the report. So in closing, I just would like to note that this bylaw has been developed as a flat annual fee rather than a usage-based model. And the reasoning for that is that the municipality's known annual costs in order to provide ferry marshaling service, we know what those costs are, so it's easy to just come up with a flat fee amount. As well, the estimated future costs are included in that number. But most significantly, in order to develop a bylaw based on a per unit model, we would be relying on data that BC Ferries owns, and we do not have control or access to that data. So as well as adding a degree of management and counting and invoicing, and would create an undue administrative burden on our part that's not justified. So I'm happy to take any additional questions or provide additional information with regards to this amended draft, which staff are recommending be read second and then a third time today. Thank you.
Thank you to our acting CAO, Councillor Saunders.
Thank you through the chair. Two questions. One is BC Ferries aware of this yet? And I'm just kind of curious more than anything else. And two is, if you got an August 1st start date, assuming we pass this, is that August 1st of this year? Would they be getting a bill for this?
Yes, so BC Ferries, to answer your first question, Councillor Saunders, is absolutely aware. The Strategic Initiatives Officer and myself had a meeting with BC Ferries Engagement Group. One of their key questions for us was where we were at in the adoption process of this bylaw. We did subsequently notify them that it was coming forth on the council agenda today. So I do anticipate that they will be keeping tabs to see if it moves forward through further readings today. And your second question, I'm sorry, Councillor Saunders, was, for an August 1st implementation. It's an annual fee. If it goes through prior to July 31st, we would be implementing the fee. Given that we're adopting the bylaw partway through the year, I would be looking to prorate it for the first year, so day of implementation forward.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up then. Is it, and you may not be able to do this, can you tell us how that discussion went with the BC Ferries that you've had about this?
Yes, certainly. They're keen to continue to keep the dialogue moving forward. I don't know that we came to any kind of constructive ways forward to find a resolution outside of this process that we're undertaking right now.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Getty, followed by Councillor Jurgensen.
I appreciate the drafting of this bylaw and very much appreciate all of the preamble clauses. It looks a little bit top heavy in terms of the multiple whereases, but I think it lays it out as clearly as we possibly can in terms of the research that we've done and where we're coming from. So I appreciate that work by staff. I'm fully supportive of this bylaw. So the sooner we get it in, the sooner we'll see what the reaction is going to be.
Thank you, Councillor Getty. Councillor Jurgensen, followed by Councillor Morse.
Through the chair to the acting CAO, with regards to prorating it, is this being charged on an annual basis based on BC Ferries fiscal year end, which I understand to be March 31st, or the municipalities, which I understand to be December 31st?
It would be on our year end of December 31st.
Okay, thank you.
Where do you, Councillor Morse?
So if you were to prorate it, the 150 would be prorated on the basis of if we passed, well, we can't get it passed by the end of July, then you'd prorate it on the basis of August to December.
That's right.
Okay, so just out of curiosity, and if you mentioned it, I apologize. You said you met with or talked with BC Ferries. Was it the Public Relations Department of BC Ferries? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And they've also been invited to council as a delegation, which has not materialized. Councillor Saunders.
I'd like to move the recommendation.
Okay. So we have that Bowen Island Municipality Ferry Impact Fee and Reserve Fund Bylaw number 7/20/2026 as amended be read a second time. Moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by, let's say, Councillor Jurgensen. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that carries unanimously. Then we have that Bowen Island Municipality Ferry Impact Fee and Reserve Fund Bylaw number 7/20/2026 is amended be read a third time. Moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Fast. I'll call the question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that carries unanimously. Thank you to staff for your work on this, and I look forward to this coming before council for adoption. And also, I think an opportune time to just feedback to staff that I've come off ferries these last two Sunday afternoons. which have been busy, and I've seen very visible ferry marshals, both coming off the ferry, holding clipboards, collecting data, at the bottom of the ferry line and on the top of the ferry line, and it feels like a very marked change than we've seen in the Cove previously. So just a big shout out to staff as well as our ferry marshals who are, every time that I'm down there, doing great work in managing what's sure to be a busy summer. So just through staff and through our acting CAO, if you can pass along our appreciation for their work.
Thank you, will do.
Councillor Fast.
Just to add, I too have been noticing the difference and including acting, our staff acting as a crossing guard, like a school crossing guard to at the big crosswalk, and then it feels more safe and orderly down there.
Yeah, and I would also add that it also helps to reduce the turnaround time, keeping the ferry on time. So there's benefits on both sides of the water.
Yeah. Good. Okay, moving on to 8.1, award of Snug Cove Road and line marking implementation project. We have Sarah Kasari, our Director of Engineering and Public Works, joining us again here today.
Good afternoon. The report is there. I've already presented this in Committee of the Whole. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay. Perhaps let's get the recommendation on the table first, and then we can deal with questions and debate. Councillor Jurgensen.
I'll move the recommendation.
It moved as written, seconded by Councillor Fast. And now on the motion, questions or comments, debate. It's Councillor Morris, followed by Councillor Fast and Councillor Gay.
2 questions. I missed it if it was in the report. How many people responded to the RFP?
2 companies responded, but one of them was compliant.
One of them was what?
Their bid was compliant. They had proper bonding and proper information. The other one, they missed proper bonds and proper information in their bid.
Okay, yeah, because I was surprised that it was a heavy-duty construction company, not a road paving company or a sign marking company that responded. So that was, and they're also not Lower Mainland, I believe.
They are, through the chair, they are not Lower Mainland. They are, but they've done multiple very good projects on the island, Victoria Island. Our consultant worked with them and they were happy with their results.
So when you say they've done projects, they've done line painting projects,
Yes.
signage projects, okay. Because I had a look at their website and I couldn't see. How much did we put in the budget for this?
Through the mayor, we've got 150 in the budget. However, we are allocating part of our roads rehabilitation budget, which is in there for another 650. So we will be dedicating part of that budget in order to fund the project. And the report also notes that we will be seeking grant funding through ICBC in order to offset some of the costs as well. We feel confident that there will be funding from that source being received.
Any idea what the maximum might be that we could get from them?
Through the chair, the whole pool of the fund for the Lower Mainland is around $2 million. So we are going to apply for the maximum. Hopefully we get good amount.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's a lot of potholes too, so, yeah. Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Councillor Morris. Councillor Fast, followed by Councillor Giddy.
Thank you. Great report. I just want to check something, and that is through the chair. It mentions at the top there, removal and relocation of existing signage. I'm pretty sure that you don't mean removing the Nahuelcom, Bowen Island signs, but can you just confirm that you won't be removing all signs?
Through the chair, you are right. Most of these signage are regulatory signage or wayfinding. The other signage wouldn't be replaced or removed.
Thank you.
And over to you, Councillor Getty.
Yeah, I regret not having been able to get back to you in terms of after your presentation to the committee of the whole, but I can't remember what got in the way, but any rate, here we are. So I won't go back over all of that in terms of the project that was put out for tender, but I am curious, Councillor Morse, in terms of the funding. So in the document on page 2 in financial resource and maintenance considerations, there the 298,000 plus excluding GST, 200,000 of unspent municipal road network funding. So is that the 150,000 that the acting CAO just referred to?
That's correct. What we put in the budget was 150,000. The actual sum of funding that we have at our available is almost 200,000.
Okay, and that municipal road network funding,
Mhm.
is that money that would otherwise be spent on the potholes and the other
No,
maintenance?
it's not. It's very targeted funding. It comes from TransLink and it's only allowed to be spent on that segment of the road, which is the municipal road network, which goes from the ferry to, I think, up
The
here, the
school.
intersection by the school.
Yes.
So we're only allowed to spend it on that segment of road.
All right, so then the utilization of current year's roads rehabilitation budget. That is the balance of the 98,000.
And ICBC grant funding.
Well, wait a sec, so we don't know about that.
No.
We're hopeful
Mhm.
and we're confident, but what is that budget generally that this theoretically 98,000 would come out of?
650,000.
So it's a dent, but not a massive one. And what do we think if we're eligible for getting with ICBC? What's the best case scenario?
I'll let the director of engineering provide her opinion.
Through the chair, the least that we are going to get is $50,000. But we are asking for more because most of these signage are regulatory signage. And basically we ask right now, our application is asking for $240,000.
Is that for the whole island or just this segment?
Just this thing.
So theoretically, if we get that larger amount, then that would pay huge amount.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Okay, not seeing any further questions or comments. My only, I don't know if it's a question or a comment, just musing is I know that, the crosswalk that we had down by Cardina Road was painted by a local artist way back in the day with salmon swimming through it. It would be great if we could have some of that local influence on this project, if that's possible. But aside from that, I am in favor of it and I will call the question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Community Center flagpole. We have our facilities manager here with us today to answer any questions that you folks might have. Otherwise, I will look for the recommendation on the floor, please. Councilor Getty?
So the drawing that was attached has 3 little multicolored squares just outside the entrance to this community center. Can you tell me where the discussions have located the welcome figure in relation to those 3 little squares?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Through the chair, it probably should have been not named proposed as rather as possible, because we do still need to figure that out between the different projects, just to make sure everything meshes very well in the front of the building. There are other spaces that we could go with the flagpoles that would be less in the same area. But we are still working on that.
Okay, so basically neither one has been written in stone.
Not to my
All right.
knowledge, no.
And has there been any attempt made to try to find grant funding for this?
Oh, not by myself, no.
Okay.
I'm actually unsure. I would have to look for help for that, to be honest.
Right?
I would have to look to get some help on that. It's not something I've done in my past, so
Oh.
it's still a new process for me. But thank you, that's a great thought.
All right.
Counselor Fast.
Thank you, and I'm in support of the proposal, but I just have a question, and that is that there's 3 flags over there.
Mhm.
And as far as I know, in the Islands Trust area, we're the only one with a flag. So I'd be totally fine with it moving into the community section of the changing flags. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention and make sure that the Islands Trust flag is still on a list somewhere.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. That
Okay.
third one would be.
Okay.
Counselor Jurgensen, followed by Counselor Morse.
Okay, sorry, just to confirm, the 3 flags would be British Columbia, Canada, Islands Trust, is that correct?
If that's the way we wanted to go, yeah, that would, we would definitely have to do the 2. And if we did have a third pole, we would go with that.
Does Bowen Island itself as a municipality have a flag?
To my knowledge, we don't. It could be an interesting initiative to have one eventually, but not currently.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Morse, followed by Counselor Fast.
So that raises another comment. At the, when you go to UBCM conferences, most municipalities march in with a municipal flag and put it up across the front. We haven't been able to do that because we don't have one. I'm not sure we'd be able to agree on what the flag should look like.
It would be the most contentious issue we've been going for years since Cape Roger Curtis.
Don't even bring it up.
So there's 3 little dots. One is red, 1 and 2 are green. So am I assuming the red one is the Canadian flag, or is there any significance to the colors of your circles?
I went with green as we are currently asking for 2 with the possibility of a third. So
So
that
the-
third would be the red one we would hold space
Okay,
for.
so are there not flagpoles out that hold all 3 flags? Or 2 flags at least? I thought I'd
My
seen-
understanding is that the poles had to be individual, particularly for the Canada flag. You can't have more than 1 flag on a pole, as far as I know.
Oh, okay, I'll have to look at that. And then I guess the question was the Islands Trust flag, and then so would these stay in here or would they all go outside?
I believe those would stay here, yeah.
Okay, tripping hazards. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Counselor Fast.
I just wanted to make clear that I wasn't proposing that the 3rd flagpole would be only for the Islands Trust flag. I just meant, I like the community flag idea that I read in here about all the other flags that you could put up at different occasions and for different ceremonies and public events. And I thought the Islands Trust flag could be in that mix. That's all I meant. I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Fast. Over to you, Counselor Getty.
I'm not as keen on having a flagpole of any description. And even though it's a textile and it's nice colors and, you know, it has symbolic, but I'm wondering, in terms of the money that is being proposed and all of the other items that we might still have on our wish list for completion of this, or, you know, what are considered to be more fundamental or possibly useful items. I don't know what's on our wish list, and I don't know if this is something that I would consider low priority. I understand a lot of the comments that have been made in terms of our lack of a flagpole and lack of having a flag up front, and I personally don't consider it to be something that we're lacking. It's just something that hasn't been brought up as part of the budget expenses. So without knowing what else might be on that wish list in terms of things that we need to get for this, or repair, or, you know, replace, I'm not in favor of this at this point, and I would be suggesting that we table this and get more information, or return it to staff for more information with respect to what other things we need to spend money on for this building.
Okay. Counselor Jurgensen.
I just wanted to say as much as I, think that there's some good discussion we can have around here, like Councillor Getty, I'm not particularly in favor of it.
Councillor Fast.
I also had the words welcome figure ? Down on my sheet here. And as I recall, there was just a plan to sort of organize them so they fit together. And seeing staff nodding there, I tend to agree. I like the fact that the Canada flag flies down there at the cenotaph. And it's raised and lowered by the Legion folks, I understand, as per the Canada flag protocol. And I see them on the ferry. I think I would like to wait until we see how the welcome figure is coming and how that might all look together, and whether there are grant funds possibly available. And think more about, do we want to get into the whole flag issue? Because reading about other municipalities, there's a lot of public polarity that comes up around flags and whether such and such a flag should be raised or not. And thinking about how we're trying to be inclusive, I think, and thinking about how much press and time I see other municipalities. I'm looking in the, municipal world news and things like that for Canada. Flag issues show up again and again. And I just, I'm not sure, until we see maybe a community group or something in our OCP process or something that comes from the community about besides the welcome figure, that fits together in a more holistic kind of way. I would like it to be carefully planned. I guess that's what I'm thinking. I'd like to see and some public input, because it can be divisive, these flag issues. And I don't really want that for our new community center when we're off to such a good start and when we're not necessarily trying to identify as big government. I wonder if we might leave this particular one until there's a real case made for that. That would be my thinking now. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Fast. Over to you, Councillor Saunders.
Thank you to the chair. I'm trying to digest the conversation from my own point of view, I guess. I think concur with what Councillor Getty said, that there might be better ways to spend money, and we should maybe look at that. And I also agree the discussion around flags can be pretty divisive. It doesn't need to be, but it ends up that way for any number of reasons. It isn't for me in any way divisive, and regardless of which way we go with this vote, and I haven't decided in my head whether I want this or not, I will say that while these things can be divisive, I personally feel like the Canadian flag is extremely inclusive, and it's important to me. It's important to a lot of other people. And the fact that there might be some opposition to something like that, and there might be, in fact, I feel like there certainly would be a lot of vehement discussion about what flags should be up there. And I get that it can lead to hard feelings and stuff like that. I think in my mind, if we're gonna put a flag up, you can see the Canadian flag up there. And frankly, the rest of them are less important to me, because we're all Canadians or we're not. And I feel very strongly about that. I'd want to see that or no flag at all, actually. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Saunders. Over to you, Councillor Morse.
I'm just looking at the recommendation, and we're just we're approving a open checkbook. So at this point, I would like to defer the decision and request staff to come back with possible to do some research on how much it's going to cost to have a flagpole. If I missed it, if there was any costs in here,
$6,000 to $14,000.
6 to 14,
Yeah.
yeah, per pole. Or,
No, sorry, that'd be depending on if it was 1 or 3, yeah.
okay, so each pole is is the minimum of 6,000.
Forward and a bit plus shipping and things, and then also installation.
Okay, all right, so, so and is there any possibility of getting any grant funds to pay for it?
I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, so maybe how much requests are we getting, or questions are we getting to say, why don't we have one? I noticed you've mentioned that in the report, but.
I did have a community member who has come a couple of times to chat with me about it, and there was some talk on social media around it.
But you're not getting inundated with, why don't we have a Canadian flag flying?
I wouldn't say inundated.
So maybe to defer, see if we can find some grant funds. And
Okay, so I'm seeing some questions around it. So let me tease this out a little bit. I have absolutely no problem with the installation of a flagpole at a government building. Given that we are in Canada and a creature of the province, I think those are fine. I think it's not just fine, but also expected and to some degree necessary out of protocol and respect. I think the challenge is, to tease this conversation out into a bit more nuance, the challenges are where you get into flying community flags and, you see that in a number of municipal areas around requests, for proclamations that mayors get all the time. Community flags is another one. You can look at Vancouver and lighting up the city hall or lighting up the bridge in Vancouver can be a very contentious thing from time to time. That's why I have the read here that there's a flag protocol and policy to address that as well. I think for the sake of staff, because I'm hearing a couple of threads here, is don't support it at all to wait till there's grant funding to postpone it until we have a sense of the welcome figure and where that siting is going to go. I think there needs to be some clear direction here as to where that goes, whether there's an approval of principle. Do you want a flag or not? I also don't think it's an issue that we need to burn a lot of daylight on erecting a flagpole, versus a 300,000 contract that we just awarded in the previous item. I'll look to council for a clear resolution as to where we're going to go with this and at what point and what we're waiting for. I saw Councillor Fast with a hand up next.
Well, I was just going to propose that we refer the recommendation back to staff to find out about grant funding and to bring it back with the proposed the policy that you mentioned. But I agree. We should give staff some clearer direction than that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in the absence of not seeing anything else, I will move the motion as written and look for a seconder. And if there's amendments that folks would like to see, we can move on with those. But I would like to advance us through the agenda, please. So I'll move that council approve the installation of 2 flagpoles at the Bowen Island Community Centre for the purpose of displaying the Canadian flag and the British Columbia flag, and direct staff to proceed with procurement and installation within the approved 2026 financial plan. And the council directs staff to site and design the flagpole installation in a manner that accommodates the future addition of a 3rd flagpole and a potential welcome figure. Is the one change I would make. And that council directs staff to report back with a proposed flag protocol and policy to address the acceptance and display of community and commemorative flags at municipal facilities. Second. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Saunders. Discussion on the motion, Councillor Morse.
I think we should, before we direct staff to report back with a flag policy to address the acceptance and display of community and commemorative flags, we should have a discussion as to whether we would be wanting to. I mean, why would we display community and commemorative flags?
Right. So this is that discussion. There's a motion on the floor.
So I would move that that last clause be deleted from the motion.
Okay, a motion to strike the last clause. I'm not seeing a seconded by Councillor Saunders. So discussion on the amendment to strike.
Is that the whole part, that council direct staff?
That council direct staff to report back with the proposed flag protocol and policy to address acceptance and display of community and commemorative flags at municipal facilities. So the amendment is to strike that whole clause.
Sorry, just for clarity, because I see a separation in my mind between flag protocol and display of community and commemorative flags as opposed to the provincial and national flag. Not really sure, like, are we asking staff to report back on both of those or?
So are the protocol and the policy different?
Right.
So perhaps I will refer that to staff for what the flag protocol and policy would actually look like. Should it be approved or stricken?
I'm sorry, so could you, I'm
So
a bit unclear on the question.
the third clause reads the council directs staff to report back with the proposed flag protocol and policy to address the acceptance and display of community and commemorative flags at municipal facilities. And I think the question is, what does that policy actually look like? And are we displacing a Canadian or provincial flag in favor of a community flag?
No, it would be adding a third flag, so that we would have space to add a flag for National Indigenous Day and Pride flag and things like that, and how we would accept and decide on what flags would be acceptable to run up on a municipal pole.
Okay, and that would, yes.
And the protocols are established for the provincial and for the federal flag. There's no
ifs, ands, and buts.
moving around with that.
Yeah.
So we don't need to develop our own protocol for that.
Okay,
Thanks, that's clear.
so in that policy would even be moot until a third flagpole is installed.
Yeah.
Okay. On the amendment, Councillor Getty.
I'm wondering if we can sever these three counts.
We can after the amendment is disposed of, because it might end up being two.
All right, on the amendment, then I think that ultimately this is something that we need to have. And it would be good to spend some time thinking about it and discussing it, but I think that that's, I'm not sure that we need to have that before we authorize the purchase, basically.
Of two.
So, I'm worried about the first, I'm more concerned about the first section of this motion than I am about the other two.
Okay. Councillor Durkinson, on the amendment to strike.
I mean, on the amendment to strike those, if we, Councillor Getty has requested it be severed into three. Are we looking at just seeing if this won't pass to strike it and then sever after that? I just want some clarification on what the process is.
Yeah, that's fair. So once we come back to the motion with multiple clauses, we can sever and have those individual clauses dealt with separately. But right now, we're just on an amendment to strike the third clause regarding the proposed flag protocol and policy.
Okay, thank you. And just a process question. Where would there be an opportunity to debate? How many polls should be there to begin with?
I believe that would be in the first clause where it names the approval of the installation of two flagpoles.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Not seeing any further debate on the amendment. I'll call the question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, raise your hand, say nay.
Nay.
And that carries with Councillor Wake and Councillor Getty in opposition. So we were back to the original two clauses. The first being that council approve the installation of two flagpoles at the Bowen Island Community Centre for the purpose of displaying the Canadian flag and the British Columbia flag, and direct staff to proceed with procurement and installation within the approved 2026 financial plan. And that council directs staff to site and design the flagpole installation in a manner that accommodates the potential future addition of a third flagpole and a potential welcome figure. And there's a request to sever those two. Okay. So we're on the first one, the approval and installation of 2 flagpoles. And Councillor Jurgensen, did you have your hand up on this one?
I don't know if it belongs here in the second one, because I feel like it would be a potential addition of an additional pole if the Islands Trust flag was to be flown all the time. I mean, I have a very complicated relationship with this whole agenda item as I see flags, in acknowledging that we're on unceded land and in the spirit of reconciliation, I don't know that adding additional flags, which is a claim of ownership, is really a great idea to begin with. However, if it was to proceed, I think an Islands Trust one then would make sense. And not just having the Islands Trust one run up every time there isn't a community flag. So I don't know if we can add 3rd and 4th to the second half. But not particularly, still trying to sort out in my own mind how I'm going to vote on either of these 2 pieces, but I just wanted to put that out there for debate. And request that we are going to move forward with number 2, add 3rd and 4th rather than just 3rd.
Clarification by what you mean by 3rd and 4th?
In the second bit where it says to do the installation in such a manner that, and I'll paraphrase here, that there can be a 3rd pole added for a community and commemorative flags, and instead also include provision for one for the Islands Trust as well.
Okay, so is that I'm curious, is that an amendment for the second clause or?
That's what I understand. I don't believe that would be appropriate to put it with the first 2. I think it would be in the second. So I'm going to propose it for the second.
Okay,
And
so we're still on the first now because there was a request to sever. So we're on the first clause, which is the installation of 2 flagpoles. So I'm going to look for debate on the first clause. Councillor Morse.
I noticed it says within the approved 2026 financial plan. So have we put money in the plan already to put install these?
We do have a contingency line item that has $80,000 in it, so $6,000 could be accessed within that financial plan.
Councillor Wake.
Just stepping back a little bit, I think the community is looking for us to show leadership here. We're here to represent the community. I don't think we're ever going to have total agreement on how many flags or which ones, but I think it's important to have them. So I think it's more important that we move forward cautiously. And unless there's, in the absence of some reason not to, which I haven't heard yet, a good one, I think we should proceed. So I'll be in favor of the first 2 and eventually the 3rd one, I hope.
Okay. Not seeing Councillor Getty, followed by Councillor Fast.
I guess I have some concerns in terms of your comment that it shows some sort of respect or some level of respect. I think not wanting to go ahead with approval and installation of 2 flagpoles for the Canadian flag and the British Columbia flag at this point, being opposed to this is intended in any way to be disrespectful, either to the flag or to the community or some other interest. I just think from my perspective, this is something that I saw the comments on social media. I didn't have the same sorts of concerns. And I thought they were a little bit strongly worded. That was not what was the intention in terms of us not having a flagpole to date. And I still think that I'd like to see a bigger picture in terms of what's left on this building. It's come up as a bit of a surprise to me. I wasn't expecting this to be on the agenda, and it's of interest, and I think that it would be nice to have. I don't think it's disrespectful to not have. I disagree with that comment that was in social media. And, I think that we need more information. So I'll be voting against this, both in terms, just primarily in terms of this moving along so quickly now, when I would prefer to have some sort of an idea of what that $50,000 contingency fund might be spent on. Because I know that there's other equipment that would be, very, very helpful in terms of the operation of the building.
Thank you, Councillor Getty. Over to you, Councillor Fest.
Thank you. Very similarly, I'm not meaning any disrespect. And I am somebody who, when I come into a new community and I'm looking for internet access or something, I go to where I see the flags because there I can get Wi-Fi or better signal or something. And I have nothing against the Canada and government flag, but I am concerned that we're acting on something that's come from one member of the public and a discussion about on Facebook that I didn't see. I'm assuming it was Facebook, and that's a big US company that does rage farming for engagement and to get people riled up. You know, I am so I'm not convinced that whatever I didn't see was an inclusive conversation that would have embraced all kinds of people's ideas. Anyway, so I think we need some input from the public, because once you put up 2 flagpoles, people are going to be saying, well, where's the next one? And then we're into that whole, it's a project that goes on together. And I realize we're taking some time on this, but this is something where I think right now we have been facilitating inclusiveness and encouraging the community and going beside the community and paddling together, whatever you want to call it. I don't think we need to be showing leadership by putting up, I don't think it's showing leadership by putting up a Canada and a BC flag when we've got a new facility, lots of costs in other parts of the Muni, and we've got one person and some discussion on Facebook that I have not seen. So I think until we get a proper proposal, I can't support this yet. Thank you.
Okay. And just a note for clarity, there's nothing in the staff report that suggests that this is arising out of a social media campaign. So, and one of the reasons I'm seeking to move this along is that we're a local government that's talking about installing a couple of flagpoles. So it's doesn't necessarily need to be a larger issue than it is. And if council doesn't want flagpoles, great. If they do want flagpoles, great. But again, for the sake of moving meetings along on things that are a bit larger, that's why I'm driving the conversation here. But I will turn it over to Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, through the chair. I'll be really brief, and I gave my emotional response to that earlier. My practical response is this is a government building. I realize it's a community center. We're sitting in a government office. I don't think you can go to very many towns anywhere and not find a flag flying. Maybe you can, but I've never noticed them. That we represent something here, and I have no issue with flag being there to demonstrate that. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. I believe everybody's had the opportunity to speak, so I will hold us to our procedure and just simply call a question on the first clause. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, raise your hand, say nay.
Nay.
And that carries with Councillor Jurgensen, Councillor Fast, and Councillor Getty in opposition. So we are on the second clause, that council directs staff to site and design the flagpole installation in a manner that accommodates the potential future addition of a third flagpole and a potential welcome figure. Discussion and debate on this item. Councillor Jurgensen.
Simply requesting a third to be replaced with third and fourth.
So that would be a formal amendment. So if you have the wording of amendment,
to amend the motion to strike the word third flagpole and replace it with third and fourth flagpoles.
Okay, so a motion an amendment that third be replaced with third and fourth flagpoles, seconded by Councillor Fast. Discussion on the amendment. Councillor Fast.
Well, just I'm supporting this amendment because we don't know what possible more flagpoles could come up and where the potential welcome figure could be. Could it be Squamish Nation would be interested? I'm currently interested in Islands Trust being part of whatever rotation, so I support the idea of making it a bit bigger than just one more flagpole.
Right.
I think it might
Maybe Metro
calm
Vancouver wants to
down
fly a flag as well.
discussion if there's more options. Thank you.
Right. Councillor Saunders.
Through the chair, I'm not sure how many flagpoles we might end up, like, I realize and I'm trying not to be flippant here. But 3, 4, and as you said, maybe somebody else wants to fly a flag as well, like, if there's gonna be a third ultimately, then I think the discussion here was around a rotation of flags or for specific days or something on those lines, which if you're gonna have 3, then that makes sense to me to do it. I don't see the need to do more than that.
Okay. On the amendment, not seeing any further discussion, I'll call the question on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, raise your hand, say nay.
Nay.
Nay. And that motion is defeated with Councillor Jurgensen, Councillor Fast, and Councillor Getty in favor. Now, so we're back up to the motion as written. I council direct staff to site and design the flagpole installation in a manner that accommodates the potential future addition of a third flagpole. Not seeing any
And a
further,
potential,
yes, and a potential welcome figure. Not seeing any further hands, I will call the question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, raise your hand, say nay. And that carries unanimously. Thank you.
Didn't see that coming.
So we are on 8.3, the 2025 annual report, which has been included in the agenda. And thank you to our manager of facilities for joining us here today.
Thank you.
Any words on this or just available for questions?
I think we probably want to keep the meeting moving along, so I'll be available for questions.
Looking for questions on the annual report. Otherwise, I'll seek a motion. Councillor Jurgensen.
I was going to move the motion as written.
Okay, so move that council approve the 2025 annual report. Councillor Fast to second. Any discussion on the motion? Not, Councillor Morris.
I think in the past, we've always presented a brief PowerPoint presentation of the annual report, so.
I have some words to speak to it if you want.
Well, I don't
To
know. I
speak
mean,
to
I'm
it?
just thinking, are we meeting the requirements of the legislation if we don't actually make a
Yes, the
presentation?
requirement of the legislation that it be available for public inspection, I believe up to 2 weeks before the
Yeah.
Adoption, the approval of the meeting by council.
Okay.
Thank you. Not seeing any further discussion, I will call the question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that carries unanimously. And 8.4, naming and
Hang
recognition.
on. Our motion said as presented at June 22 annual meeting. It's in the agenda package, so is that enough for presented?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and 8.4, naming and recognition policy. Again, we have Kristen Watson, our Chief Financial Officer, joining us here today.
Thank you. Through the mayor to the rest of council. From the meeting at June 8th, 2 draft policies were brought forward. One was called the honorary naming and the other to deal with donor funded naming of community municipal assets. It was identified at that meeting that we also had a gap in about how to deal with smaller requests for recognition of service of community members or organizations. So council provided staff with significant amount of feedback regarding the donation threshold chart and the existence of the bench policy within that chart. There was some questions around the linkage between the established naming priorities that were identified in the policy with the honorary naming policy. So I took all of that feedback back, and I believe I've addressed those issues that were raised by council by consolidating all of these things into a single policy. So this policy now includes all of the feedback provided by council at the June 8th meeting. The staff report summarizes each of the specific changes and how they've been addressed in this new version. The specific piece around the benches and the $5,000 donation amount, I've removed that from the donation threshold, as we do have that specific policy that very clearly articulates the steps in order to put a commemorative bench in place. The new single policy clearly sets out the priorities for naming of assets. It sets out how the decision around seeking a gift of an Indigenous name should proceed. It sets out a new decision-making framework for the honorary naming process, for the donor-funded naming process, and it's now added an entirely new section which has turned it into a staff-led process, removing council from those smaller recognition requests that may come forward, leaving it to the discretion of the CAO to refer it up to council if it's deemed to be something of higher significance or priority. So I'm happy to take questions or provide additional information to council on this new third singular policy.
Councillor Getty.
Thank you. In the scope, looking at the policy and the, I don't think it's even numbered, but there's some bullets with respect to, on the very first page underneath policy objective. And the last bullet, it says developer named. That's the only time that that phrase is used, and the rest of the document talks about donor name. So is that different, the developer name, a different concept?
This is something that is an issue that's outstanding that we don't currently have policy around, but when we get a subdivision contributed from a developer, there have been times where it comes with it attached names to streets, assets, parks potentially. So we don't have, staff doesn't have tools, policy, or any kind of framework in order to make decisions around accepting those street names or a potential partner. Like if council were to receive a park that was a subdivision that included a park that the developer named the park after themselves or something, we've identified that we are lacking policy in order to deal with that piece of it. So that's something that we're putting on our work list in order to bring forward to future council meeting as to how to manage the developer contributed assets and have naming guidelines and a framework to accept or reject those proposed names.
And you would be then suggesting that it's different and could be different from the donor funded naming policy.
I think there's more to think about around it.
All right. With respect to item 2.6, which is on page 6 of 8, or I'm not sure the number here, 9 of 21.
Or the section number, please?
2.6. The second bullet, where evaluate the financial contribution in accordance with the standard contribution schedule to ensure minimum thresholds are met. Seems to me that was the problem that we had with respect to the donations for the naming of I think it was 18.03 policy, that the thresholds were too high.
Right.
So if there's, is there some way of adding clause that would allow for flexibility if there's, I think there's a difference between the not-for-profit organizations that may have a suggestion as opposed to corporations or developers for that matter.
And I wonder if that was somewhat addressed, and I believe it was your point under 2.3 financial contribution requirements, where we added other such considerations that council considers appropriate. So providing a little bit of flexibility for council to deviate from, say, that schedule in order to address a very specific, unique need that was brought forward in any kind of proposal.
So you've covered that, thank you.
Yeah.
And then section 3.2, this is the recognition, commemorative plaques, signs, or other markers. So this basically delegates the decision-making to the CAO. Is there some way of reporting to council all of the requests that do come in? Has that been considered in this? I couldn't find anything. It seems to be just limited to the CAO making decisions unless there were a particularly large donation of some description. So.
And I'm just wondering if simply by adding a recommendation that the CAO report approved commemorative markers to council at some point.
That would,
That
that
would
was
be
the
good.
information, yep.
Yeah.
There is this clause in 3.2 that says where the request is considered significant, unusual, or otherwise warrants council consideration, CAO may refer the request to council for a decision.
Expanding on that so that we get a list of what has been approved,
Mhm.
Okay,
not just asking for reconsideration, but sharing information.
I can draft something and I can, just,
If everybody agrees, okay.
yep.
So, and finally, 3.4, the duration of a commemorative marker. So these are the smaller items.
Yep.
There was something in the previous section where there was donor notifications in terms of if there was going to be a removal or a change, that there'd be a notification to the donor. And that hasn't been included in these smaller ones. And I'm thinking that that would be
That's an easy
a
sentence to add.
nicety to
Mhm.
include and let the donors know. Okay,
So that could be added by a single sentence to the end of the first paragraph of 3.4.
Mhm.
The nominator will, the municipality will
Yeah.
make every endeavor to notify the
Notify the
nominator.
nominator, yeah.
which would make it the same as the other larger
Yeah.
donations. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Everybody agrees, I'd be making formal amendments to add whatever those sentences might be.
That doesn't sound like a formal amendment. So it could be,
Could we-
it could be referred back to staff and then they could
Okay.
make amendments, bring it back. But let's continue the discussion. Any other changes or things that folks would like to see? Councillor Fast.
Thank you. I was really pleased with this. I liked that it was consolidated, the two into one made a lot of sense, and that the bench policies contained in there as an attachment, so it's clear. And I did, as I'm on the library board, so I did flag it with the library and librarian, and she got in touch with Kristen, I understand, and they've talked about it, so that's good.
Mhm.
And so I wonder, I mean, Kristen's been, our current CAO has been working on this, and she's got the sentences kind of in her head. I wonder if we could just pass it today as amended. Because there's just this couple of changes, but anyway, that's just an idea to move it along, but it doesn't need to be rushed, so I'd be happy with either referring it back to staff.
I would advise against
yeah.
making changes on the fly. There's always, there can be unintended consequences. And,
Yeah, okay.
Other comments on the draft policy? Councillor Fast.
Well, then let's refer it back to staff for further clarification.
Okay. Motion to refer back to staff, moved by Councillor Fast, seconded by Councillor Getty. Not seeing further debate, I will call the question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that carries unanimously. Moving on to correspondence 9.1, please implement Bear Smart rules and infrastructure. We have a letter here from Ms. Wrench. Open to discussion here. Councillor Getty.
I think it's really good information and I'm supportive of this, but there's budget implications and I'd really like to know, what we can do and how we can organize both the educational part and some of the bylaws. So I'd like to move us ahead on this, but and to get more details about the budget implications if we're changing all of our garbage cans that are down in the cove, for instance, and recommending that others find a market seller that has the equipment that we need and that we, get ourselves in upgraded so that we don't end up with one or two bears shot.
I see our Manager of Parks and Environment with a hand up, so maybe she'd like to join us up here at the front for comment.
Thank you, Chair. We've looked into it, and replacing all of our garbage cans in the Cove as well as at each park and beach would cost about $85,000.
Sorry?
$85,000.
Councillor Fast.
I wonder if the director can tell us, I have on my calendar that there's a Living with Wildlife event happening on Wednesday in the theater. And I see Living with Wildlife postings coming through the information news email. But can you tell us a little bit about the event happening on Wednesday, just briefly? Because I think, you know, it's all good ideas, but there's tons of implications. And I think we should just receive this correspondence for information personally, but.
To the chair, thank you very much for mentioning that. I was hoping to get a plug in for the event happening on Wednesday night. So the event is a Living with Wildlife, educational event. It's free. It's in the community center theater. And so we have lots of space for lots of attendees. And it will be attended by conservation officers, by a wildlife safety officer. The RCMP is coming, and as well as representatives from Metro Vancouver who can speak to, all these people can speak to how they would respond in some kind of a wildlife situation. Be it in our parks or at residences or anything that was maybe threatening public safety. I think council had requested that we do an event like this back in October, and it took some time to get everyone organized and in the same place in one night. But that's happening, and we're starting at 6 o'clock. The doors will open, and we'll have a bunch of kind of interactive interpretive material. There's will be a bear pelt, a cougar pelt, both that you can touch, taxidermy cougar that is quite interesting to look at. It's shocking to see how big they are in person. And then we'll have a educational presentation starting at 6:30, which will last less than an hour, and then lots of time for questions afterwards. So yeah, and we're ending at 8.
8 p.m. Thank you. Then can I move that we receive this correspondence for information?
In a moment, we do have Councillor Getty in the queue.
Oh, sorry.
Is that event going to be taped?
To the chair, we are trying to tape it, but we've been having some technical issues with that. So I can't make any promises at this point, but we will make an effort. In the meantime, if anyone has any questions that they would like to submit in advance, I would be happy to ask those questions and get back to people with a response via email or phone call.
Follow up. I mean, if we can't figure out with our equipment, the technology, can we put a request out to the community? Because there's all sorts of people with equipment and knowledge that could probably help. Because I think that if it's difficult for people to show up for one specific evening, and there's other events that are happening, and that would be good to be able to further get, spread it around so that other people can see that event and the questions and answers. So if it's possible, I think that would be important.
To the chair, thank you very much for that suggestion. I do, it's a little tight, the timing, but if you have any suggestions in particular for people who you think might be interested, I would appreciate also that feedback, maybe.
Back to you, Councillor Fast.
I move that the correspondence from Lisa Rinch at 9.1 be received for information.
Moved and seconded by Councillor Wake. Any further discussion? Not. Yes, Councillor
Does that
Getty.
mean that we're not taking any steps, we're just thinking about it?
I don't even know if it means that we're thinking about it. Councillor Wake.
I think it means we're gonna wait until we have the information session, and if we'll have a better sense. I mean, ultimately, why wouldn't we, if we have bears, why wouldn't we start following Bear Smart? It sounds like the issue here really is how much, how quickly, what cost. And so we need a little time to work that out.
Councillor Morse.
Yeah, and I guess one of the things is, does our garbage collection bylaw require that people only put it out the morning before? And there's a fine if you put it out earlier? Because I think that's a very simple amendment to do to.
Through the chair, I'm not sure that we have a garbage collection bylaw. Is that a bylaw?
The service is established by bylaw, and yeah, it does set out
Some
those
rules and
service
regulations.
delivery and expectations, yeah.
Okay.
So I was thinking we could add and refer to staff.
I mean, it's sort of either, you could refer the motion to receive to staff at this point, or vote down the motion to receive and then refer it to staff. So we are on the motion to receive, and I'm going to look for council for germane comments on that motion. Councillor Fast.
Yeah, thank you. Partly why I'm just received for information. It seems to me that what's been offered from my skim of it, I have to say I didn't read it in detail, was I'm familiar with this kind of information, these kinds of programs, and this seems to me to be operational, and lots of thought had gone into it, but I prefer that operational thinking come from our staff that we direct to do things like the session that she's providing and deal with our bylaws and all that kind of thing. So it just seems to me to be a little early to be making decisions based on one individual's operational ideas about what should be done. And so that's why I'm just receiving it for info.
Okay.
Or proposing to receive it for info.
Okay, I will call the question on the motion to receive then. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that carries unanimously. Thank you to our Manager of Parks and Environment. Moving on to section 11, update to Council on Metro Vancouver business. Actually, two interesting meetings I attended in the last little bit. Regional Parks Committee meeting held June 10th, 2026 in the Electoral Area A Committee. And I'm going to be looking to make two information referrals. It's a very interesting document. So on the Regional Parks agenda, we received a report on the draft management plan and public engagement process for Burnaby Lake Regional Park, which is a really interesting and well done and detailed plan on park management. And I thought that the Parks and Environment Committee would be interested in that for, not to do anything with it, but interested in it for information. So I'm going to move that item E2 from the Regional Parks agenda dated June 10th, 2026 be referred to the Parks, Environment and Climate Action Advisory Committee for information. Seconded by Councillor Wake. I'll call the question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that carries unanimously. And the other really interesting one was that's Regional Parks again. The Electoral Area A Committee received a consultant's report on emergency management cooperation titled Emergency Management Service Delivery by Small Communities, about the implications of emergency management and how to cooperate between Belcarra and Moore, Lions Bay, and Metro Vancouver more broadly. And the report singled out Bowen Island as being really quite advanced in its emergency management and how we're doing things, partially because we are an island and it was recognized that in an emergency, we got to do everything on our own. But just how advanced our response is, our planning is, our fire department is, and it was just nice to see that level of recognition, but then also sort of what's happening in the region. So there's discussion there about IPREM, discussion there about how Metro Vancouver manages responses that I think our Emergency Program Executive Committee would be interested in seeing. Yes.
We got a presentation on IPREM at the last meeting.
Yeah, so it's not just IPREM. This is a consultant's report on
Oh, yeah, okay.
specific to emergency management in small communities. So I am going to move that item C1 from the electoral area committee meeting held June 17th, 2026, be referred to the Emergency Program Executive Committee for information. Seconded by Councilor Getty. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that carries unanimously. And that's it on Metro Vancouver business. I'll turn it over to our municipal trustees for an update on Islands Trust business.
So I know that my fellow trustee jumps in and but I want to.
No. She didn't
I
even bring
wanted
her
to
notes.
grab the opportunity. There were several things that happened, and I've got a list of 5 highlights, but I think the most important one for the community is that our recommendations that we were supporting for the stewardship awards, we've got both, and both the Conservancy overall and the 2 researchers from Dr. Wendy Palin and Dr. Tom Sisk. And that was, we have to go through the closed meeting process in terms of discussing awards for different people, and we did that, and then we brought it out to the regular meeting and awarded that, and it's gotten some good coverage in the community, and it's really raised our profile in the trust in terms of the level, both of the size of the work with the Conservancy and with the level of professionalism and the beauty of that report for the biodiversity plan. So that was really good for Bowen. The other items that came up was that the very first meeting of the trust has now formally been delayed until the end of November to accommodate the 2 trustees from Bowen Island having an opportunity to be sworn in before the meeting. So it was a little matter that ran into some difficulties basically planning the meetings for when the council gets sworn in for the trust, but we got accommodated. We also passed Indigenous Relations Action Plan. And that's quite a detailed document that is the next step in terms of having hired. It's been a long time coming, and the staff were able to put it together, but it's in line with the new position that was put into place with the budget this year in terms of hiring a senior advisor to help with the Indigenous relations, and that has been a requirement of the province in terms of them rejecting the 5-year plan from the Conservancy and rejecting in part the request that the council made to have a review by the province and our need to have more direct and policy with respect to Indigenous relations. So that got passed. We also had the staff, one of the things that was difficult in terms of talking about the Islands Trust policy statement was just how detailed it was and how thick. So the staff have come up with what's called a policy statement companion handbook, which narrows it down to some 60 pages instead of whatever the original one, I think it was 130. And this has been quite helpful and well received. And they were also talking about coming up, one of the questions that was raised by this council was the lack of an implementation plan, and that all of the work that had gone into the actual policy statement was one thing, but the implementation was the companion piece that was missing. So they've agreed to have the staff work program start working on the implementation plan, and they have been working on it already. And there's a new working program and that the Trust Planning Committee had looked at in terms of Crown land agreements with the province and updating those. And I think that in line with our discussion of forestry on Crown lands at our Committee of the Whole meeting, that if we haven't already had direct contact with staff, then I think that it's important that I'll try and get more detail for our director, but that be in combination and collaboration with the trust in terms of the work that they're doing with those agreements with the province. So. Anything?
I didn't even bring my notes, so I'm really glad you were prepared.
Can I
I
ask
could,
a question?
Yep.
You mentioned that you had deferred the first meeting to accommodate Bowen trustees, but my understanding when we set our council meetings was their swearing in ceremony is going to be on November 1st. So I don't understand why you had to postpone it to the end of November.
The my understanding was that the trying to sort out the calendar was that there was the legislation or the policy requires that it be no later than the second or third Wednesday of the month following the election, and that the last two elections they've run into problems, so they did the administrative change the
never mind.
wording to the end of November, so we wouldn't have those conflicts.
Ah,
So I think what you're saying is that we've accommodated them, they've also accommodated us, so there won't be
Okay.
any, if there's glitches.
it's not
in
that
terms
it's
of people
happening at the
sworn
end
in.
of November.
Okay, any questions, comments for our municipal trustees?
Anybody want some light reading?
What's that one?
Sorry?
What was the light reading you just?
That's the handbook.
Ah.
Policy companion handbook.
to the draft trust policy statement.
Okay, so with that, we will move along to information items question period. We have question period is an opportunity for members of the public to request clarification or ask follow-up questions. I will look to our gallery here and online for any questions.
No online questions.
No online questions. With that, I will look for a motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Getty. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 Aye, and that carries unanimously. We are adjourned.